I am your brother in Christ, and welcome back. We are back with another Hangout live stream. This is again open to any of the Apologetic Empire Discord server people. If they want to join in, they're more than welcome. But today we're talking about everyone's favorite topic, well, politics. Yay! Yeah, it's what it is, and that's what we're going to be hitting on today. Definitely with Joe Biden being sworn in tomorrow. There are some ideas and concepts that I wanted to talk about ahead of that. Some things that I would expect to see and might come to pass. So let's go ahead and dive right into some of the concepts that I'm looking at. First of all, with the just Capitol Hill riots that happened, they did involve Trump supporters, although now we know they were inspired by Antifa. At least some of them were Antifa, using some of their tactics. So we've got that going on, which, again, that's a brilliant move in order to paint your opponents as evil. If you have no morals at all, you could definitely use that tactic to great effect. And I think they got what they wanted there. I know that's not the politically correct thing to say, but I don't care about politically correct. I'm just going to talk about what I know. And if I was the one in charge of Antifa on the Democrat side, because I think they're associated with one another, absolutely, I'd sprinkle maybe 12 agents into this Trump rally, use those 12 to rile them up, and then those 12 will be the ones who start pushing. And as soon as that push happens, the avalanche is behind it, and it just goes from there. So I think we definitely saw then there's some seriously good investigations going on into that. But unfortunately, we've all jumped to conclusions, and it's settled in many people's minds. Hey, Dakota, welcome. Ooh, I'm trying a different one. That's cool. I like the bubbles better. I like how the bubbles look in the bottom corner over here. So I'm doing pretty good. Just want to cover this real quick, this topic, which is always so much fun. What I would expect to see tomorrow, and some of the things that might come to pass. But again, this is not spiritual prophecy. This is just my personal observations and saying, some things seem to be trending in this way. So let's go ahead and give a loose prediction, I guess you'd call it. So as I'm seeing this, if I was in charge of the Democratic Antifa group, the next thing I would set up is an assassination attempt. Really would. In fact, they've already primed the pump for this. At least the mainstream media has already primed the pump by already blaming Trump for not attending, saying that that's a call to violence because he's not attending. Therefore, it's okay to have violent action there, which makes no sense. If I say I'm not going to go down to my grandparents this week, that doesn't mean that I want them killed. I mean, that just makes no sense at all. That's not a call for violence at all. And neither is this video, by the way. I'm just giving you my observations and my guesses, my best case guesses. So, looking at Biden getting sworn in tomorrow, Trump already did say he's not going to be there. I think that's poor sportsmanship, I'd say. I do think that the election was shifted. I think there's enough really questionable activity going on there, but we'll see. So it's just, no, it is not. Again, that old callback. So what I expect to see is an assassination attempt tomorrow. Again, it seems, again, if you look at the social media, what they're saying is going to happen, what they're saying is going to happen, what they're saying is going to happen, they may create it Antifa and the Democrats may create it. And there's some advantages and disadvantages. Well, why would you assassinate your own person or attempt to assassinate your own person? Well, really two things we can really see there. First of all, let's be honest, Kamala did not do good in getting the nomination. She was a deadbeat, to say the least, as far as candidates go. But yet Joe Biden, for some reason, did pick her. Yes, she had the right skin color with enough victim points to earn her the vice presidency. That's what we're really seeing there. What assassins? They're addressing that the media has been applying that there might be something going on there, some violence that might be going. If I was in charge of the Democrats, I would set up an assassination attempt or a successful assassination in order to paint my opponents bad. Again, that comes with the assumption that I have no morality and I'm willing to use anything in order to obtain my goals. And again, the reason why you would assassinate your own guy is either you want the VP in, which they've been pushing her pretty hard. Even Biden said it. You're supposed to keep the silent part silent, not say it out loud. The Kamala and Biden campaign. Oh my gosh. So yes, I do not expect, I've said this before, I don't expect Biden to be able to make it through his full term. Not because I wish any ill will upon him. I know, first of all, the stresses that go along with that. I mean, if you look at any president, between their first day in office and their last day in office, they age something seriously. And if Joe Biden ages anymore, he will, well, turn to bone. So, hey, John, welcome. So there's that concept. And if they're really trying to get Kamala in, assassinating Biden would do huge success for them because they get their person in. At the same time, they get to paint their opponents as these extremely violent individuals. Now, another thing that has come through that we're definitely seeing is that they are starting to vet people. Definitely the security for the for his swearing in. They're making sure that they don't support Trump in any way, shape, or form. And if they support Trump, then they're not being used as security. That's scary to me. Because they're discriminating against someone that you may vote for. So your vote may have ramifications for the rest of your life. So that's kind of scary to me personally. Because I think that as an American, you can vote however you want. I may disagree with your vote. In fact, I disagreed with quite a few votes that were done. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have the right to vote. Just read Esther, the whole needs an Esther moment. Yeah, but right about now, yes, I would agree. So yeah, I would expect tomorrow to see an assassination attempt against Joe Biden or an actual assassination of Joe Biden. Let's be honest, he's, again, not all there. And I've said it before, and I do feel bad for him just because I don't think he knows what he's doing. How many times did he say he was running for Senate? As he was running for the presidency? Not just once, but I know at least twice. And that's embarrassing. So yeah, I expect to see that happen. I expect to, if that were to come to pass, then I expect to see more gun laws pushed through. I expect, this comes from a woman who said she wanted to use executive power to pass gun laws. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that come through definitely after this assassination. And it's going to get really, really, really messy for those of us that are conservative, and definitely for those of us that are conservative and Christian. Because you get a double whammy there. It's open season on your rear end. So, is tomorrow? Yes. Tomorrow is when Joe Biden gets into office. If you're watching this on BitChute, though, I'll probably be releasing this in a couple of days, so you'll get this a couple of days late. But know that I did say this beforehand, and you can check YouTube, at least as long as YouTube still allows me on there, as reference. And yes, I've been releasing my videos on BitChute now, just transferring them over as fast as I can, releasing every single day, because this is going to get bad. So hunker down, get ready for this. Again, trials and tribulations aren't anything new for us. In fact, to be honest, throughout history, it's kind of the norm throughout human history. So we'll just have to deal with it and roll with it. Biden. Absolutely, I agree. I do pray that there will be no violence towards them. I do pray that God would open their hearts and open their minds and show himself to them and guide them to know him fully, so that not because of some greed of my own, but for their own sake. Because I know they cannot enter the kingdom of heaven until they have been saved. And I do want that for them, even though politically they are on the other side than I am. And that's not wrong to say. In fact, that's the Christian thing to say. Is, I'll pray for you, but I'm not going to vote for you. Yep, he is our president. That's when he gets sworn into office, he will be our president. That's how it is. Now, if we impeach him later on, he does something that's not right, or the Hunter Biden stuff ever comes to the actual surface, then we can talk about legal ramifications at that point. But yes, I'm not going to be like the liberals who were, he's not our president. Well, he is the president of the United States, and I'm a United States citizen, so technically, yes, he is. I have a lot of questions about the election, but for the time being, he does hold that office. There are still checks and balances in place. Our founding fathers were extremely intelligent as they decided to make sure that one president can't completely crash our system, and that as long as he doesn't just pack the courts. If he packs the courts, he'll kill one part of our government. The legal branch will be dead if he just starts throwing people in there. So I'm curious to see how this goes. I've been on their site whenever they were running, and I was not encouraged. A lot of anti-Christian propaganda, to say the least, stuff that the Bible definitely speaks against. Again, my prayer was that God would save the nation. My prayer now is that God remembers those who follow him. If he's going to destroy the nation, he's going to destroy the nation. I just want him to remember those who stood by him in those final hours when it was not comfortable to stand by him. So that's what we're really seeing and really dealing with. So I'd expect to see that assassination tomorrow. Again, I hope Joe Biden doesn't die tomorrow. I really don't. I don't think that he will enter into the kingdom of heaven by what I can see of his fruits. So I really wish he does, and really pray that he does not tomorrow. And I pray the best for him as far as becoming Christian and repenting of his evil ways. So I'm trying to be good. And that's where our heart should really be. And remember that no matter what happens, no matter how rocky this gets, no matter how much persecution comes down, or how we're not allowed to do anything or leave our homes for 6 months, although now the Democrats are now saying that Lockdowns. That wasn't such a good idea. Maybe we shouldn't do lockdowns. And I remember just a couple months ago when you were the worst of people if you said that. Ginja Ninja seems to have joined us, sir. Let's go ahead and welcome him on in. Hey, welcome.
What's going on, brother?
Oh, not too much. Just talking politics, which is always so much fun.
Oh, my God. That has been a hectic week of hearing all that.
Well, ever since the Capitol Hill riots, I think that was interesting, or at least the Capitol invasion, I guess. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily call it a riot, but...
Well, you had a few idiots.
I talked about this earlier on. It has been proven now that Antifa was actually the inspirer of it, that they were leading the charge dressed up as Trump supporters.
And there was a BLM guy arrested who was in there, as well. So, but just with the political...
I guess our guest has now left. Unfortunately, he was in the middle of a sentence, and I was really curious about what he was going to say.
Okay. All right.
Welcome.
I was trying to see. I was seeing if I could switch my camera around. Oh, I guess not. Thought I could use my front camera.
I guess not. Weird.
Oh, well, I guess I can't. Anyway, I hit the little button there, and I thought it would do it, and it took me out of the call there for a second. But I've got gear scattered all over the place, so I get my 3-day and get home bags put together. Just in case. Stupid.
Just, again, I guess whenever I was doing my walks, which I've taken a break from walking and all my getup, the police asked me when they stopped me one time am I a prepper? And it took me a moment. So I'm like, crap, now I guess I am. It's 2020. Guess what?
I get my
into prepper.
Carrying level 4 body armor together.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm thinking about taking back over as captain for the North Carolina 3%. I used to be over 10 of the surrounding counties and over our training and everything. But I had to step away because church and everything else I was busy with.
Yeah, well, we'll see how this goes.
Indeed. But it's
going to be interesting. So I said earlier on that my money for tomorrow, since Joe Biden's being sworn in, is that we are going to see an assassination attempt. Or a successful assassination. Again, I'm not calling for that in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying that seems to be, the media seems to be prepping that. And whenever they say, oh, this bad thing might happen, oh, Trump's already inspiring this bad thing happening, they make sure it happens. At least someone does.
Yeah. Somebody who's going to propitiate the idea that the right is leading a devastating cause. It'll probably be somebody on the left that's going to try to do that. But they'll probably miss or something, but they'll be disguised as, a right leaner, some MAGA hat,
Have you heard what they're doing with the National Guard for the inauguration?
Yeah.
They're splitting. Basically, anyone that supported Trump in any way, shape, or form is not being allowed, and I think that's very dangerous.
It is. That's separating people by ideology. That's not good.
Well, we've already got, let's be honest, we've got a very polarized nation right now. In that case, we'd be looking at a very polarized army. Because if you start splitting the army up with, this is the right supporting army over here, and this is the left supporting army, all two of them, you're going to have a real bad dichotomy going there.
Oh, you're absolutely correct. And with the left wanting to look at voting in Puerto Rico and Washington D.C. as states, that could be devastating for the turn of power, because it's going to add 4 Senate seats and keep basically Republicans forever, or libertarians for that matter, from ever getting the House or the Senate ever again. The biggest thing is either a succession or the two constitutions go through where they split the state into 3 states. So Northern and South California and East California. So
okay, well, Texas, I know, does have that right to split. In fact, I think it's the only one who entered the union with that stipulation where they can split into 4 separate states if they so deem that they want to. I think the problem is, again, just like with packing the courts, you're going to put a real big disbalance. You're going to really upset how we have this government structure set up. The people in Puerto Rico don't want to become states. They don't want to become a state, but they might not get a say in it.
It's possible, and then the southern states could secede. Problem with that is you got BLM calling for everybody to move here and use South Carolina, Florida, and Georgia as their own autonomous state, and they're trying to flood it right now, which is a far cry from something that would probably ever happen. But certainly not the greatest of circumstances of when you do have people who have that mindset actually moving here to do that very thing.
The problem with looking at secession, I think the only state that could actually make a real good attempt at it would be Texas, to be honest with you.
Texas and Vermont's tried it for years.
What?
Vermont has tried it for years, and Texas could very well do it. It would take several other states working together in unison to be able to do it. If it was like North Carolina and South Carolina working together, they could do it, but probably not going to happen anytime.
And I don't know where I would be on that, actually, because I've always been one who likes the states having more power because it's closer to the individual person. I don't like power being removed to such an extreme height that the upper elites are not in touch.
No, exactly. My guys, we have always educated our people on that. It starts at the local level, because when you vote people in at the local level, have your interest, they can put pressure on the people at the higher level, and that pressure trickles up. But you have to get out to your local elections. People always think, the presidential election, that's important, and then they forget about the Senate, or they forget about the Congress, or they forget about their governor, or they forget about their mayor. And they just don't think much on it, and they need to be active. People have gotten lazy and complacent. It's like, the government will just do it for me. It's like, no, yeah, well, now look at where we're at.
Yeah, I agree. It really is. Starting at that point is where we need to be from the ground up. And the United States is very unique in world history. Most of the governments that have been throughout history have either been a monarchy, a dictatorship. There's been some republics that have popped up, some democratic nations that have popped up, but not really a lot of them. And their average runtime for lifespan is about 200 years, give or take.
Yeah.
After 200 years, they normally fall either into
socialism,
empire, or into some sort of monarchy or dictatorship. So we are definitely at that cusp right now. We're kind of past that point. So this ought to be very interesting.
It might get spicy. We'll see.
So we definitely could, in my opinion, use a reset to what the Founding Fathers originally intended for the federal government, which was not much power, more power to the states, not much power in the government, the federal level. But let's be honest, who knows if the government will ever actually give up power?
Yeah, you're right.
There has been people, and I got to put this caveat on there because, again, I'm history buff, right? So there has been people throughout history who have given up power. In fact, even dictators who have given up power willingly of their own volition. The primary two that I can think of is George Washington was very, he wasn't a dictator, but he was president. They were going to basically make him King Washington, and he said no. So he willingly gave up that authority and passed it on to the next president. Now, the other one was actually a Roman man who was given absolute power by the Senate because of an emergency. And that's how they had it set up originally, is the Senate would elect a dictatorial man to go and do this work.
And that's what happened to Julius Caesar, wasn't it? Didn't he?
It was the last one.
He was the last one. He had absolute authority and kept it.
Yes, he had absolute authority and kept it. And that's where we get the word dictator from, was their form of doing it. Now, the first guy who got that power went out, defeated the enemy that was at Rome's gates, came back, gave up power, went back and farmed his field. He did that like 4 or 5 times. Had absolute power, absolute authority, and gave it up over and over again. And I got some mad respect for that guy. Holy cow. But those are extremely rare and far between. Hey, welcome. Just want to say hey. Welcome, brother. Okay. So I doubt we would see that. We would need to have a big reform in order to get the power back to the states and out of the federal hands.
Yeah, the government got too big during the Obama administration, and that's been cut back. But we're going to see the government get bigger again, which is unfortunate, and it's going to make a lot of issues. But hopefully, a lot of crap ain't going to happen. But we'll see. But it's still going to take a lot of prayer. Still going to take a lot of people being active in their their local government. You can't fight the federal. At this point, you have to start local and keep the pressure on the upper guys. Your mayors, your local legislation, your state levels. Keep the pressure on. I mean, we got 2 years until we got another, I think, Senate election and everything else. You just gotta keep on.
No, that's what we've got to do. I mean, keep our eyes out. Don't be taken in. Unfortunately, we're definitely seeing that with YouTube's censorship. I mean, they immediately blocked threw President Trump off of Facebook and Twitter. So, and again, he didn't inspire it. Going to the rally that he had was not inspiring any violence. Nothing he said was inspiring violence. But now they say he was, even though he did very clearly condemn those who did commit violence.
Well, they have to make a narrative. The media is going to follow with it because they made a job the last 4 years on hating him. And after Biden gets in, they're not going to have much. They're not going to have much to do. I mean, there's nothing they're going to be able to have to report on because they've spent so much time and energy, and everybody's tuned out, tired of hearing about Trump. And now they're going to be like, oh, what do we talk about? Now they're going to probably talk about Trumpism and everything else like that they're now focusing on. It's like, now we got rid of Trump. Now we got to figure out how to get rid of the Trumpism, like these people who support his ideologies and ideas and stuff like that. And it's ridiculous. Now you got fringe groups saying, we need to put every Trump supporter in a database, or what was another thing I heard? There was Trump supporters, I think, in the government, like trying to get them pushed out, or I can't remember what it was, but like they were being targeted at work and were not able to do certain things, just being ousted for their political stance.
Well, AOC has made her has basically asked for all the Republicans to resign over this. They should also all quit. So yeah, they're calling for just people quitting. We're going to see more of the boycotting. I'd expect to definitely see that. I'd expect to definitely see, if you are anyone who's outspoken about your beliefs that don't line up with the left's ideology, that I would expect to start seeing more people targeted in public areas. Maybe a mask mandate. I know Joe Biden's talked about that. Again, that's not legal. That's an illegal order if he decides to make that from the federal seat. I even have some extreme problems with the governors who have used emergency power, which they've basically had all year, almost a complete year of emergency power, to push through whatever they desire.
I know we got a curfew here in North Carolina, and I have to carry a paper around with me because I work third shift in case I ever get pulled or anything like that. And we got a mask mandate, so now that you can have a misdemeanor if you're caught without a mask in a public area.
Yeah. Does that include outdoor as well?
I'm not entirely sure. I just put it on because I ain't dealing with it. I can't afford a misdemeanor. I can barely afford anything as it is. So I'm just like, dude, I'm just leave me alone. Don't talk to me. I'll put my mask on. Just don't bother me.
Well, definitely. In fact, we'll be talking more about what the mask mandate is, why it's such an issue. I will definitely be hitting that, I think, next week during our normal live stream like this, just open discussion about why it's such a problem. And it's not, just wearing masks, you just put that thing over your face. Well, for some people, they have medical conditions that really cause an issue. And the problem is people don't respect that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I got a touch of laryngitis right now because and it's not helped that I have to have a mask at work all, for 8 to 9, 10 hours a night, and I'm just constantly breathing in moist air, CO2 the whole time. And it's like, it ain't helping me none. I'll tell you that.
No, definitely not. There are quite a few studies out there currently that's showing the ramifications for constant mask wearing that I think will be quite a big issue. Again, the problem is this is government getting control, and it allows us to have micro tyrants everywhere.
Yep, that and then you look at also the stay-at-home mandates, stuff like that. They're looking to see the social distancing or the mandates that people have to be out from the public. They're seeing that may not be effective as well because people could have the propensity to get sicker more being in the same household with everybody all the time, because you got people like me who are essential out there in the public and everything else. And if I had a family and I come home and I'm sick and they're not out and about at work or at school or anything else like that, then they're going to get sick. I mean, you look at my friend in South Carolina, he just got COVID and his whole family got it, all 3 children and his wife, because they're all home and can't leave anywhere. And it's those kinds of things that are at first glance, the social distancing and the stay-at-home orders at the surface make sense, but when you actually look into it and what that actually entails, it throws it out. I mean, it doesn't make sense whatsoever.
True. The practicality of it. I mean, again, in Ohio, we have a 10 p.m. stay-at-home order for right now. I can't leave I should not leave the property legally.
The Covamps might get you.
My wife, the Covamps might get us. What does that have to do with it? It's not like COVID is more contagious after 10 p.m. What logical sense?
There's less people out at 10 p.m. than there is any other time.
I mean, everywhere closes at 10 p.m. So it's not like you're going to go out unless you're going to, family.
Or seeing a loved or seeing a significant other or whatever. I mean,
yeah. So you want
go to the store and go get something for like a gallon of milk or something. Like get over.
I guess on my side, it doesn't really affect me too much, just because I'm normally not. Normally in my life, I'm not out that late anyway. I gotta work.
Yeah, exactly. I work at night, so I mean, I get it, and it's empty. I mean, it's like, and it's always been empty, regardless of the curfew. There ain't nothing out. There ain't nothing happening.
Well, yeah, unless it's some sort of I guess medical emergencies. I've had to go out for medical emergencies. But yeah, my wife's pregnant, and during the delivery, they're requiring her to wear a mask during delivery.
Huh?
Deliveries are already dangerous enough.
Do they have
now
a little?
we want to give a mask to a woman who has asthma.
Do they have a tiny mask for the baby? As soon as it comes out, they slip it on real quick.
I wonder. Let me wear it. Yeah, if I'm there as her husband, I can't leave the room. We have to stay in the room, locked down. We can't go out for food. We have to stay there the entire time. And I just don't see how this is feasible.
I hate this so much. I'm tired of it.
Well, that's basically a lot of America's feeling that way now. I live out in the middle of nowhere. So if I want to go outside and walk, I can.
Right.
Like no one's going to bat their eye if I decide to walk down the street. At this late, someone would definitely bat their eye at it, just because that's weird, and they would definitely even notice during a normal, non-pandemic era time. But yeah, it's. So I got that luxury of being able to go out and have a bit of land that I can walk on, where some people in apartments, you're stuck inside. And we've known for a very long time that staying inside all the time, never going outside, is not healthy.
It is not. And I mean, and the rest of the world's getting tired of it too. I mean, you look at Germany, and they're now wanting to put who constantly break their curfew or, social distancing in detainment camps now. And they've got places set up in multiple cities. But what was it, in Tunisia, whatever it's called? Anyway, they had I think it was 100 people got arrested for revolting against the government for that bullcrap. And I think, I can't remember which country it was. In another country, 600 people were arrested for protesting against the lockdowns because they're just sick of it. They're absolutely sick of it. And if you look at it, we wouldn't be in the debt that we are in if they had just kept everything open. And because, yeah, we have high risk people. My dad's high risk. If he got it, he's, but he understands you can't shut down the darn government for people like him. He understands that. And he's like, this is stupid. He said, I know I'm sick. I know I can't do everything, but to sit there and cost the government trillions of dollars to keep somebody like me alive, he's like, that's dumb. He's like, it don't make any sense. He said, everything's falling apart. People are getting, riled up. It's just, he understands.
See, in my opinion, what we should have done is the people who are high risk should have the option of staying home. Make sure they're safe. Everyone else go out and get it. You see, I had it. My wife had it. And she would be considered high risk. And it was a light cold. We both had a light cold. So it would have burned through us without any issue. Now we can't spread it or get it for a while or indefinitely, counting on what study you look at. But that would have allowed us to continue to work, continue to be out there.
Exactly. And again, we wouldn't have lost the economy as we did if they just didn't shut down. I mean, if they just immediately went to social distance and mask and not shut down, it would have been better. But I mean, then granted, it hits people differently. It was a light cold for you. One of my best friends, she got it, and it was she just had a cough and lost a taste and everything. But my buddy in South Carolina, he had 103 fever for like a week and a half. I mean, it hit him hard. But I mean, it's different for everybody. Yeah, granted, and it sucks if you get it. It's going to be like a really, really bad flu. I mean, if it's it hits you hard. But it's no worse than the flu in regards to deaths, or when you look at tuberculosis, or you look at anything like that. Tuberculosis killed 1.3 million last year, I think, something like that. I mean, what do you do with those numbers? I mean, where do we draw the line? We're not wearing masks for tuberculosis or the flu. Where do you draw the line?
Yeah, if you could only save one life, isn't it worth it? No, it's not. Because every day we do stuff that is risky. I drive to go a place, and people die driving.
Yeah, if we can only
Not going to stop me.
cars, get rid of cars. You said it. Get rid of them.
Get rid of them. Can't have any cars. There are always going to be risks. You as an individual need to be able to assess your risk and decide if you should do that. So again, updating the freaking models would be kind of nice after a year of holding on to the same models as we had originally, considering if even when we were looking at the worst death rate that I believe they had, which was I think 6 or 7% originally, that was their estimation.
Right.
Back when I was covering this like every day, and then I was like, no, this is a bunch of bullcrap. That's nothing compared to the Black Death. That's a spit in the bucket compared to the Black Death. That's about the same as the Spanish flu going through.
And
I think it was 4 or 5.
Who were like, oh, this is the end times, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, if you think this is bad, you should have looked back in the 1500s. I was like, do you think this is bad?
The Black Death was horrendous. You had everyone was flipping dying.
Oh, yeah.
Burned through the population of Europe to such an extent that it couldn't get from one person to another.
What was it?
That's what stopped it.
What was it? Was it 1/3 of Europe was killed, or 2/3? It was 1/3. Okay,
One third of the European population all died because of this within a few years, and it was tremendously horrifying. So, I mean, 1/3. So, if you know 3 people, one of those people, imagine them dead for every 3 people you know. Jeez. I mean, mostly. Let's see. There are 7 of us all together as far as my siblings go. So that's at least 2 or 3 of my siblings dead.
Yeah.
And guess what? We've all had COVID. And how many died? Zippo. So, yeah. Compared to Black Death, not even close.
I think people have gotten soft, man, and then this hits. They don't know what to do, and then you got politicians who want control and everything else, and want to be able to say whatever they want to say and make you do whatever they want you to do. And I don't know, man. I me and my girlfriend were out shopping for something, and this woman started yelling at her because she wasn't keeping 6 feet apart because she accidentally got too close, and she was like, "You got close to me again. I'm telling you. If you don't get away from me, I don't want your germs, blah, blah, blah." Like, man, she must have voted for Cooper because that was my dryer. Anyway, but I was like, good Lord, man, she's just flipping out. Like, calm down. If you're that worried, go home.
Go home. You don't have to be out here. No one's forcing you to be here. You can be home. There are plenty of ways to now order stuff directly to your house. You don't ever have to leave. If you feel that is that necessary. I think you're a moron, but we live in America. You have the right to be a moron.
Exactly.
At least the last time I checked. Nowadays, I'm not too sure. Definitely not on YouTube. I keep waiting to be banned. Oh, I got a new video blocked in Pakistan.
Yeah, that's what
my wife did too.
Kind of waiting on what I'm going to do for, if I start back onto YouTube, because I've been busy with a lot of other things here. But now I'm going to start looking at BitChute, YouTube, and then Rumble and everything, and just kind of get familiar with those platforms before I start doing.
This will go up on BitChute as well. In fact, I've been over the last few days, everything I've released on YouTube, I've downloaded all my live streams and I'm releasing them on BitChute like once a day. Just because I don't expect to be on YouTube too long. I really don't. With Biden getting into office, the new mandates coming down, I'm surprised I'm still here considering I drew Mohammed. And that's the one that got blocked in Pakistan. In fact, I'm kind of surprised it lasted as long as it did before it got blasted. Well, one of them did, because I still have the minute-long snidbit one that I did that hasn't got blasted yet, but I definitely the long one where I'm live streaming while doing it. They kind of didn't like that.
I still feel bad about. I was like, because that one Muslim was being belligerent who got into our Discord server, and then I drew my before I banned him.
Nice.
I drew him in a dress, and then I offered the hadith about him cross dressing, and then I banned him.
Hey, you gotta agree with it. You're a perfect example of humanity did it, so therefore there's nothing wrong with it. Even though it says there's definitely something wrong with it. Anyone with 2 brain cells can say, that's not right. You shouldn't be dressing in a 9-year-old's dress. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
A 50-year-old man dressing up as a 9-year-old girl. Oh, well,
video. I gotta either recover it from YouTube because it was on my phone and now it's not because I broke my last phone. So I need to see it. Well, I need to see if it's still on here. I don't know. I don't think it is, but but yeah, either recover that or just delete the one I got and restart, and then because it's only one video. I mean, so I'll figure it out. I've been talking with my girlfriend more. She needs to kind of let me do my work. Because she's now coming back into the faith and everything. So I have to try to work her into everything and what I'm doing and my studies and everything else. Because she doesn't understand any of it. Last night they're studying the book of Daniel and all this other stuff, and I've got books laid out everywhere, and I pulled up stuff on my phone. And she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, I am doing some deep searching right now." I was like, "Leave me alone. You don't understand. Let me do this. I am fascinated." So she's coming around though. So we'll see.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Again, if you're going to do a video on the Book of Daniel, again, if you're doing a deep study like that, you might as well just make a video of it. If nothing else for you, just talking about it. And I would, again, recommend at least YouTube and BitChute, if not another platform. I'm not sure what other platforms there are. I mean, I've used a bunch of them. There's probably like 4 or 5 accounts out there. I've just had the easiest time using BitChute over the other ones.
I haven't looked at it yet, but BitChute, I don't like their initial, like their layout as soon as you go onto the site itself, but because it's a little confusing. But I'll check out Rumble. But I know David Woods had good results from Rumble.
Rumble? I'll have to take a look into that. Maybe I'll make that as another one. And it wouldn't be bad to have. If you're watching this, check me out on both of them. Make sure, because if I get deleted from one, I'm still going to be doing the other one. Even if I've got to pre-record all of these and then upload them, because BitChute doesn't do live streams yet. So I don't know. Again, there's so many questions on what's going to happen. I know that there are people pushing to take down Facebook because they didn't do enough censoring.
It's ridiculous. I mean, Parler's back up now, but only in very restricted sense. And they're trying to work on getting it open back up, but they finally got back online.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. Definitely after what Amazon did. But the problem is, even if you placate to these people and say, okay, fine, I'll just do whatever you want me to do, that's still not good enough. That's still not good enough. They're still going to come after you. I mean, YouTube did censorship left and right. Twitter did censorship left and right. Now the media, the mainstream media is calling for them to be taken down because they didn't do enough censorship, even though they've complied with about everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you play their game, they're going to still eat you.
Yeah.
And yeah, they might wait till you are the last one. But in the end, you're still getting eaten. So it doesn't do it for me.
It will make a whole lot of sense. I'll tell you that, man. They'll eventually figure it out, man. No matter what side of the fence they play, they're still going to get stomped. I mean, you can't please the more left you go, the more you can't please those people. No matter how woke you think you are, you're just not woke enough for them.
No, and if you are for a period, I mean, was it the author of the Harry Potter series,
J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
She's about as lefty as you can get, and she got devoured.
The
They-
more left, center left people are now being identified with the right now.
Yeah.
Because people are going so far left that the left, center left, or left leaning liberals are now switching over to more the conservative parties and stuff like that because they no longer can identify with the Democrat Party because it doesn't reflect their values anymore. And you're seeing this. That's why they had the walk away campaign that got deleted from Facebook here recently. I think it was last week. And all these Democrats just leaving because they no longer reflects them. It's just too radical, too out there. So they started voting for Trump or conservatives, or you have Democrats coming over to the conservative side or Republican side, or at least going libertarian or independent, because they are more considered right leaning now because it's just way too far out there, way too far, and they just don't they're not comfortable anymore. So
Yes. We'll see how this goes. Again, it reminds me of the old story. I think it was a pastor who was during Hitler's time, and the Nazis came for the Jews, and he didn't stand up because the Jews weren't him, and the Nazis came for the next group, and he didn't stand up for them because, well, they're not him. And finally, the Nazis came for him, and there was no one else around.
yeah,
Because they've already been taken, and you're the last one, and now there's no one to stand up for you. So, needless to say, he was taken. So, that's kind of the issue that we're seeing, where you've got, again, conservatives, open fire on conservatives, open fire on Christians. Definitely, if you're a Christian conservative, you get the double whammy. We'll see how this falls out. Again, we've got the advantage of knowing how this story ends, though. So we know we win in the end. But it doesn't mean it won't be a rocky road to get to the end.
Oh yeah, especially me as a post-millennialist, I'm expecting Christianity to be the forefront of the world at some point before Christ's second coming for the millennial kingdom. But the church always prospers under persecution. Every time the church was persecuted, it always came back stronger. When you look at places like China, it's growing like wildfire, even though it's such a censored and persecuted country. Christianity's taken off like this, and we see it also in other countries in the Middle East. Christianity underground is moving more and more as Muslims are having visions of Christ, and they're coming to a saving grace and knowledge. But also, what was the last Pew report? Iran is 60%. More than 60% of Iran is not Muslim anymore secretly. That's huge. It's falling apart. Now some are becoming atheist and agnostic, granted, but you have a lot of Christians too. And as we keep pushing, especially those of us who are focused on Islam, we just keep pushing, this dangerous ideology is starting to crumble, and you're just going to have the more radical adherents, but it's going away. It's just in its death throes. Anyway, but
Keeps cutting out. I don't know if he realizes it yet. And he is gone. Well, device not connected. Oh, well, see the V. Oh, that was pretty good. I did want to get his opinions on the vaccine that was coming through. Yeah, oh no. Oh no, he's gone. Absolutely. Post-mill, yeah. So the vaccine that's coming through, I think, is pretty scary. I'll be covering more of that next week. I'm concerned that they're going to make it mandatory, just like they did the masks. I think the masks were a dry run, where we are now going to see the vaccine be required in order to do stuff. And in order to shop or go anywhere outside your home, you have to be up to date on your vaccines. We already see this in China. They're already pushing that. And even pre this, they were priming the pump with saying, well, you can't go to public school. I know that they wanted to give my son STD vaccines before he was able to go to kindergarten. Luckily, we're homeschooling. So we said, no. So let me go ahead and put you on back in. Yeah, he kind of cut out there and died.
I had a phone call and I ignored it, and then they called back immediately, and I'm like, come on. Anyway.
I've had that happen in our household. If that happens, then there's an emergency. So,
Honestly, I just want to know if I know anything about algebra, so it looks like I'm doing math tonight.
well, I was just wrapping it, getting close to wrapping it up here, and I wanted to touch on the topic of the vaccine that's coming out, or the vaccine, if you know anything actually about it, which is interesting.
There's several companies of it. Now, obviously, me being Catholic, we're permitted to take only a few of them. There's 2 of them we're not permitted to take. Fetal.
You're cutting in and out again.
Oh, am I? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
We're permitted to take just a few of those, but there's 2 vaccines that we're not allowed to take because those COVID vaccines are based on fetal tissue or fetal studies. So there's a list of companies that we can have, but the rest of them we're not supposed to.
Yeah. Well, as far as my part goes, I looked into the actual vaccine that they're pushing, how they've done it. It's an RNA retrovirus. So it's actually not a vaccine. If you know the history of vaccines, basically what they are either dead versions of the virus or very weakened version of the virus that basically just allows your immune system to build up and prepare to fight the actual real thing, which is, I'm fully for normal vaccines because that makes perfect sense. It's just like you go to the gym to work out. So it's just like going to the gym for your immune system, get it worked out so it's all ready to go. Whenever that fight comes, it's pumped and ready to hit. But with this new version, with this new vaccine, which technically is not a vaccine, it's never been tested on humans before. This way of doing vaccines have never been tested on humans before. So this is a brand new way. 2, no one's at fault. You die because of this, you're out of luck. There's no compensation coming your way. Your family's, well, good luck. Definitely you're the main breadwinner and you're bringing home all the money. Well, now your wife and kid have to find better ways to survive. And, well, the government might just take over your part in the family structure at that point. So, yeah, that's a big red flag when no one's responsible if there's something goes wrong. I don't like that. The fact that it's untested, I don't like that. The fact that it changes your cells in order to produce the weakened version. So your body's actually producing this weakened version of COVID. I don't like changing things when something gets into my cells and changes them. Because basically it's a blueprint that we built that goes into our cells and says, hey, build this. And eventually we'll change the DNA of your body.
Well, hold on. Now, if it's RNA, if I'm correct, RNA is only the amino acid that's going to go to the DNA, extract information, but then it goes and takes it to a protein, a portion of the cell that forms and molds protein, and then there's a protein that takes that protein and ships it off to be used in a way, but it should not change the DNA. RNA only reads DNA, if I'm correct. And so it will go over there, pick out the information from the DNA, but because the RNA is modified when it goes into the other part of the cell to form the protein, the proteins and acids, it'll mold it in such a way to be used in a different way. But I would say it shouldn't change the DNA.
Maybe I'm incorrect about that then.
But
If I am, then so be it. But I still don't like the fact that they're having my body generate this.
yeah, I mean,
Just because I know how little we know about the actual human body, how things actually work together, and if you start twisting and tweaking things like this, it gets into some really scary situations.
I'm interested to see how it work. I'm not. I would see where the worry would come from that we don't know the ramifications for it. I don't mind DNA changing so much because you can't change DNA much, because if it's a major change, what'll end up happening is the death of the person. That's why macroevolution at a fast pace can't work, because it has to be so small, so slight. Because any major mutation or anything ends up in the infertility or the death of the host or whatever. It has to be very, very minute. And our DNA is changing anyways. I mean, over the last 200 years, we've noticed that the human body has undergone some critical changes that we've seen. People being born without certain things, people now being born with certain things, and now there's a propensity for it that are changing. For instance, wisdom teeth used to be a normal thing, but now because we've all become more narrow-faced, that wisdom teeth normally have to be taken out. But now humans are being born without wisdom teeth now, and so now we've adapted to where now you got babies more and more and more not even being born with wisdom teeth.
Oh, I'm just a freak because I got 2 extra, and I still have all mine.
Oh man,
I have all my wisdom teeth, and I've got 2 extra wisdom teeth.
I had to get mine removed, man. That dude, that dentist had his foot on my chest yanking them things.
Well, some of the studies that have come out from this retrovirus, and you can look them up if they're still available on YouTube and out there on the web. I guess you should always be able to dig it up somewhere. The cat study that they did, giving cats the vaccine and then seeing them react to the wild version of COVID, it still killed them. 100%. All the cats died.
Well, I know the people that get the vaccines are on a 2-year watch to see exactly what the case study is going to be like and see how it's going to affect them. So there's a lot of questions. I'm not comfortable with it 100%. But me being frontline and essential, I've got to. They're going to be pushing it on me before too long after they get all these, nurses and hospitals and everything else. So it's a decision I got to make at some point. So
well, my major concern is if they decide to make it mandatory. Now, there are fertility issues with this that has been proven in the testing that some people do, unfortunately, kind of have kids by taking this.
Huh.
So when you're using the example of the DNA causing either death, which we've seen in the cat study, or infertility, which we have seen in the human side of the study, both of those were kind of like red flags to me, at least. I'm personally concerned about it. I'm concerned if they try to make it mandatory from the federal level down. I don't think that's right. I don't think that employers should be required to say, hey, you have to, in order to work here, you have to go get these vaccines.
Yeah.
If not, then there's going to be fines. And I think that if I go out on a limb on this, again, my prediction about the assassination, all of that stuff is not spiritual insight, by the way. That's just me looking at the news and seeing what's going on with the world and seeing how things are moving and saying, this might happen. This might move in because this will be very convenient for one group to do this in order to cast blame on the other group. But as far as the masks go, I wonder how much of that is just a dry run for the vaccines. Saying, hey, since we had the masks, now everyone can be safe if you just, get these shots and take the vaccine. Don't you want to save grandma?
But it doesn't.
Yeah.
But the problem is, again, you have the infertility that comes with that. You have, again, the cat study, which scares the crap out of me, where you get the actual thing and you kill over it and die. So I think that this would be the first people who are doing this are guinea pigs. Absolutely.
I wouldn't say if we had a case study and knew that vaccines actually work and are effective, I don't think I would mind so much as an employer making it mandatory, because I don't want to be inconsistent, because it is mandatory for children to get vaccinated to go to public school and do things. Now, if I can allow that, I can't allow the other thing, because I can't be against the other thing, because that would be, I think that would be an inconsistent stance. So I have to be very careful and think that through.
Well, me, I can be consistent all across the board because I hate the concept of parents being told that their kid has to go get a vaccine
Yeah.
in order for them to go to indoctrination school. School. In fact, that's what they told the kid as soon as the little boy was born. They said, okay, he's got to get this STD shot, these 3 or 4 STD shots. And I was like, why? Because he can so he can go to public school.
Right.
He won't be able to go to kindergarten until he gets these STD shots. I'm like, are you expecting kindergartners to go have sex? I mean, I don't want to be sending my son, who's young, to a place that is promoting extreme sexual frivolousness, I guess.
I would push back on that just a little bit, because, as people, and we've been kids, and your parents and stuff like that, kids don't understand their bodies and might just be like, hey, what's that, and touch a thing. It's like, when little Susan and little Timmy are under the slide, it's like she's wondering why hers broke off. Like there's going to be curiosity. So I mean, there may be some, you don't know which kid has a mother who has herpes and got it passing through the birth canal, because that does happen, HPV-2. And then you want to protect other kids from having HPV if there's ever contact with fluid or anything else like that, especially like if a kid pees the floor or something like that and there's body fluid transfer. I can see where those vaccinations could help in that, because there is always the transfer of fluid. The over curious kid who doesn't understand sexuality, but just is like, ooh, what's that, and stuff like, basic things like that. Or a kid scratches downstairs and then rubs his face over Jimmy's face or whatever, and anything like that. I would see that trying to, because again, like AIDS or HIV gets passed through the birth canal as well. If you have a positive mother or something like that, I've known a kid to have it through that contact. There's several others that are have a high propensity for passing on to the kid. So I'd see what you're saying. I would just push back on that just a little bit when you look at circumstantial things that could happen in the schools, in schools or around children in general, because children are weird and they just do things.
Again, this is just a talk, so yeah, pushing back is perfectly fine. Again, I could be wrong on some of the things, and how would I know unless you push back on some of the statements that I make? So let's go ahead and examine that. So who should have authority over the kid to make that decision? Should it be the state telling the parents that, yes, you have to have this, or should the state leave it open to the parents to make the decision for their own kid?
Well, I would say I'll give you this example. I was told that you have all the freedom in the world to spread your arms around and spin around and everything else, but your freedom ends as soon as you hit somebody else in the face. Like, you should have the freedom to not get the vaccines, but at the same time, if that creates a health issue for everybody else, then you no longer have that freedom, because now you're affecting somebody else's freedom to be healthy. Now, when there was a spike in non-vaccination, the non-vaxxers and stuff like that, we did see a spike in diseases that were practically eliminated, and people were getting it more and more. That's alarming to an extent. Measles, whooping cough, stuff like that. That's so. You wonder where the line is cut, and it's something that we have to see. I mean, this is
freedom is the grand social experiment, especially with this country that we're still looking at and seeing what works, what doesn't work, and what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and what people will tolerate, what people won't tolerate. I mean, we've only been around for 250 years, and there's never been a nation like this. And we've been in a position in history like this. So it is a social experiment. So we have to kind of look at it. But I guess I would say, I think that's a good example. You're free to do whatever you want, spin around, fling your hands all over the place. But until you hit somebody in the face, that's when the freedom ends, because they have the freedom to not be hit in the face,
Well, these vaccines would only protect my son. It wouldn't be to protect others. They would have their own vaccines. So if the only time that my son would spin around and hit another kid in the face, as such as it is, if he had an STD, which I know I don't, and I know my wife doesn't, so I know our son wouldn't get it through us. The only time that he would be able to spread it, even if he did have an STD, would be someone else who opted out of having the shots given to their kid.
Yeah.
So the parent had already made the decision, no, we're going to go with the risk over the potential side effects of these vaccines, which, again, have not been long-term tested, just because they are relatively new.
Oh, so these STDs are relatively new?
Oh, yeah. We're not talking about something that's been tested for 20 years. We're talking about, and again, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. In fact, I've already sung the praise of the vaccines earlier. The vaccines that have been tested have been proven effective. My son's got all of them. I have got all of them. My wife's got all of them, plus some that I think were stupid ideas, and extremely injured her she got very nasty side effects from that we're still dealing with to this day.
Yeah. So
my stance is, if it's not thoroughly tested and it hasn't gone long term yet, in fact, my stance period is it should be up to the parents to make the decision for their kid. And if they're willing to accept that my kid could get an STD, granted, he's going to be homeschooled. Granted, he's not going to go to public school. He's not going to attend that sort of environment. We're not going to be shy about teaching about sex or any of that. I mean, for pity's sakes, I live on a farm. So, yeah, sex ed for me was very interesting. Let's just say that. So
I got it from school, so.
Yeah, Mommy, Daddy, what are the sheep doing? Well, honey, let's have a talk. Okay, that's how that conversation started.
Yeah, that reminds me of that Simpsons episode. Mommy and Daddy, the monkeys are killing each other.
No, not so much. We need to have a talk. Yeah, so again, he's going to be homeschooled, and I'm a great supporter of that. Definitely, if everything's going to be virtual school from now on, which seems to be the entire intent of the Democratic group, is to make it homeschool, yet still charge you the same amount of taxes as if they were going to a public school that needs a brick and mortar building and run heating and all that stuff. I don't get a tax rebate on my schools. And I don't even use my schools. I've never used my schools, but I have to pay for my schools. Not a single one of my kids will ever use the public school system. None of my family, except for at least my siblings, have never used the local public school. But yet we've always paid for it. So, what you going to do about that? We'll still pay our school tax. I'm not complaining too much about that. I'm just pointing out it seems like the school tax is the same if the kids are in school or out of school. Doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah, it's stupid. I mean, you should at least be able to take because when you homeschool, you have you name your school. It's a private institution. Technically, you should be able to write that off on taxes to cover the tax cost on what you pay into the public system.
That's what really kills me about one of the things that Trump was talking about doing was school choice, in which I'm very for school choice.
Absolutely.
That is, you get a voucher with your kid. For those of you that don't know what it is, you get a voucher for your kid and you get to send that kid to whatever school you want, and they are the ones that get the money. And that includes if you decide to do your own homeschooling. Because, man, my mother went through all this stuff. She had, again, 7 kids. She put all of them through homeschooling most of the way, at least most of them through all of it. Did some online schooling as well. But man, that's expensive. Those books are not cheap. And even if you use the same one for the next 2 down the line, whenever they get up to that grade, it's still expensive.
Oh, I know. I dated a girl for 5 years who had a kid. She homeschooled, and there was a lot to it. And I was like, man, that's rough.
Yeah, it's a full time. My mother full time did it, and she stayed at home, taught us, and then when we got old enough, our siblings were being taught, and we helped teach them and took some of the weight off of her. And yeah, it's just very, very expensive. And then to turn around, still pay into a school system. And whenever we were here originally, just moved here, we wanted to do some of the school extracurricular activities,
Right.
such as, sports or anything like that. So my mom went to go check that out, and they said no, either your kid attends here or they can't use any of the facilities at all,
Which is illegal.
which, to my understanding now, since I'm now an adult, wasn't legal. At least I don't know if it was legal at the time that they did it.
Nope.
Okay, my wife is saying no, it was not legal, that they could not actually bar us from using it, which would make sense considering we pay for it.
Yeah. Now, and y'all have homeschool associations, do you not?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Now those are pretty useful. When I took the boy to his meetings and stuff like that, and they offered a lot of different programs and stuff to interact with kids and to be able to do things and stuff like that.
In fact, there was a lot of churches do that. A lot of churches will do those sort of groups. I know the church that I attended for quite a while, for like 20 years, had a homeschooling, basically classes, music classes or martial arts. I took some martial arts classes there. I did that for a few years. Music, playing the piano, the guitar, the recorder, and is singing. They just had a whole bunch of classes there. In fact, I've even had the opportunity of teaching at one of those for a while.
Nice.
I taught robotics and sound equipment and video editing, which, hey, who knew I had some of those skills, right?
I know. Lucky you. I'm have to learn the hard way.
Oh no, I taught the classes after learning the hard way.
Yeah.
So I let the kids cheat on what I already knew. It was a lot of fun. I got to pick whatever subjects I wanted. It was great being a teacher.
In high school, I used to help teach drafting and architecture. So I know, man, it feels good to already know all that stuff. And you're like, all right, crack your knuckles. Let me show you what's up, guys.
Well, and you can make it fun. And I really enjoyed making it fun for the kids. It was a blast.
Oh, I was the same way when I was a martial arts teacher. I taught martial arts for about 6-7 years. And the kids really enjoyed it because I tried to make it more interesting for them. And try to, despite what, Master did a great job, but, I try to bring a little bit more younger energy to everybody. But yeah, I understand, man. It's fun. It's fun to do that sort of thing. I like teaching.
Yes, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of, you learn a lot through it. You get a lot of joy out of just simply teaching. Passing on your knowledge to the next generation. I'm looking forward to doing that with my son, as far as a lot of the skills he won't have. For example, I was Boy Scout master for quite a few years, for about 7. And I left because of all the funkiness that was going on with the LGBTQ, AAIP, FU groups. So, yeah, when they started letting girls join and say, well, we'll just throw the whole gender concept out the window and just whatever you write on your application is what we'll call you. I said, you guys just threw logic out the window. I'm done.
Yep.
So, but I'll be able to teach my son all those skills that I knew and learned through that program in order for survival and how to actually camp out in sub-zero temperatures and be perfectly fine and be all nice and cozy and
Nice.
all that fun stuff.
Not only that, but they say, the best way to master a skill is to teach it, because when you have to teach something, that's when it really gets into your memory. And then you also, not only that, but then you start picking up nuances to show that person. And then those nuances stick in your brain as you start to look at it. And you're like, as you're looking at them, as they learn, and you pick up those nuances and you learn it yourself, you become more proficient. And it always makes you better. I mean, that's how I got good at martial arts. I would learn a skill, but then when I started teaching it, I started understanding little things that I could help them on. But those are things that I learned watching them as I taught them, and then I picked it up and I learned myself. And you just get better by teaching. Teaching makes you better at the curriculum that you're using. So it's a valuable skill, especially if you're trying to learn something. I was learning. Like I said last night, I was looking at some certain things on the Book of Daniel, and I was having a discussion with my mother. I went and visited my family earlier, and I was going through it, and I was recalling everything, but then it helped set everything in my brain. I was like, okay, now I can recall. I know I can recall it from memory, that I learned everything that I learned, and now I'm more proficient with it, and I'm going to be able to recall it from memory if I need to. I've got it memorized now. I went and taught it. And it's just a really good exercise to use. When you learn something, go and tell somebody about it. And it's going to really help you with your studies and everything. Because, I'm a prolific reader. And I read all the time and everything else. But it's easier when I could take immediately what I read and go and tell somebody about it and teach on it or do something or explain it. That way it's set in stone. And then I could go back and start reading again. It's such a good exercise. And I would implore anybody who watches this video, I guess you're going to upload it, but anybody who's doing that, just, read a lot, but make sure you go and try to share it, or, and don't be a jerk about it, but go to share it, go do something with it. That way you can get it set in your mind and then go back to the studies, because it's going to make it so much better for you, so much easier.
So as we close out here, I guess, in summary, teaching good. Do teaching. Intelligence very big when teaching. Even if you start teaching and know nothing, go find another job. So thank you guys for joining, for those of you that have made it through this entire thing. And if you're on YouTube, check us out on BitChute. And if you're on BitChute, check us out on YouTube. See how long we'll last. It will be fun. But as they blow up this world, I want to go get some marshmallows.